So, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone for praying for my brother, for my mom. After a full day running back and forth to hospitals yesterday, two of them, I'm first going to say right out loud, Rochester General Hospital has turned into one of the worst hospitals in Rochester, New York, in my opinion. They used to be a great hospital. We were met with antagonist attitudes. We were met with my mother's inability to be in the room with my brother. My brother has some challenges where he needs my mom. It's in his records. They refused to let her back while he was back there because he'd gone there in an ambulance in extreme pain. Extreme. He refused an IV, not knowing the better that the IV would have probably been a good solution to help make sure no dehydration. But then they administered morphine. He's not supposed to have morphine. Had my mother been back there and allowed to be back there, my brother's then calling us on the hospital phone because the button that he's supposed to be able to press to get the nurse was placed far away from him. They could tell my brother had a different energy, but they don't know why. I'm sure they did not look in his records. They would have understood my mother needed to be there. We are fighting in the waiting room on our end, using every resource available to us to try to get him help. Meanwhile, they administer morphine. The doctor finally comes out after pleading with the receptionist numerous times, and she finally hears my brother on speaker calling my mother, then calling me. I don't know how to answer the questions. Mom, when are you getting back here? She then, and I believe this was after prayer, because we literally contacted our church prayer group, anybody we knew that there's power in prayer. Her heart softened. She starts working on our behalf, trying to get a doctor to call. The doctor finally comes out, and I literally had no idea she was the doctor anyways to talk to my brother or my mother, and I pulled her aside, and she had an attitude. Also, everyone there seems to be in a bad mood. We came in very loving, grateful, happy that he was going to get care. And it was very quickly turned on us. The doctor finally lets my mother in, only enough to discharge my brother. He can't walk without extraordinary pain. We are then ushered away from the hospital, thank God. I said, Russ, maybe you need some food. And I know I'm going to have to stay with my mother and Russ because he can't even go to the bathroom by himself. He can't do anything. He's in that much pain still. No further tests except for an x-ray to make sure nothing was broken. He had sustained a fall a week earlier. We leave, and on the way home, he starts profusely sweating as if someone poured water on him. He starts getting extraordinary pain in his body, in his middle body. He thinks it's his stomach. We don't know what it is. He's got to stand up. He can barely move. I pull into the parking lot. We stand him up. He starts vomiting. We think he's having a heart attack. We don't know what's happening. I get him right to Park Ridge. They immediately allowed my mother in. They immediately calmed him. They started to do an EKG. They did everything they needed to do, CAT scan. Though we were there for hours and hours, they cared for him. They looked at his records. They allowed my mother to be his advocate. And by the time we left there was calm. No one, in my opinion, should go to the hospital without someone there on their behalf. But especially in the case of my dear brother. My mother herself has a heart condition. She has to pop one of her heart pills because the stress was getting to her so badly. Our medical is a nightmare in this city. I'm grateful for unity. Used to be called Park Ridge. I still refer to it that way. I'm disgusted, fearful. What's going on at Rochester General, at least what we encountered. The same attitude we had from this security guard, who my mom was dropped off at the door so I could go park. I wouldn't even get into that. The young receptionist, who was just doing her job, but also had a defensive attitude the minute we walked in the door. There was a defensive attitude, everyone there. What the heck's going on over there that nobody can smile? No one can comfort. No one can even be courteous. This will be reported. I worked in the medical field in the insurance side, but I was in project management with mandates and so on coming down the pike. I'm very familiar with the processes. I'm very familiar with things that should never have been happening. I know I was on the Never Events projects. Those were federal and state projects. The hospitals are not following the rules, or their management is not ensuring that the people that work there are managing their roles correctly. I blame management. That was an evident cultural situation there. I'm bringing this to the attention of everyone and anyone I can. Do not let any family member go to the hospital alone. And I would avoid that particular hospital at this point in time. I would not have said that a few years ago, but I definitely say it now. Thank you to everyone who stood with us in prayer yesterday. It's fearful. And you do your best to not allow those thoughts to come in. But when someone's screaming in pain, or you think they're having a heart attack, especially when they collapse to the side in your car on the way to the other hospital, there's a minute that you realize we're helpless in this life in many ways. I'm so thankful that I have Christ. Something happened to me. Something happened to my mother and my brother. God forbid something happened yesterday, then he would have immediately been with the Lord no matter what. It's not about the sin you currently experience. It's about the Savior who took it away 2,000 years ago, rose from the dead to prove that he is the Creator. He came to suffer for our sin. You don't get it, you don't get it. I didn't get it for a long time. I get it now. I have it now. Thank God. Thank you all, saved and unsaved people alike, for caring, loving. I pray for every single person that hears this, that you take heed. Life is short. It's uncertain. There's one thing you can be certain of. Christ is the Creator. He manifested himself in flesh. There's a war. We were born into a spiritual war. There are answers. There are reasons. And there is victory, no matter what turned out yesterday. I'm thankful it didn't go the way thoughts were bringing us. Love you all.